Welcome to the Social Innovation Summit. It is an exceptional honor to be with you today. Let me just say that usually we think of the founding framers as those who wrote documents 250 years ago, a long time ago, or those who were actors in Hamilton the musical. But we have founding framers throughout history that build our country for the next 250 years. And personally, and I know I speak for a lot of other people, you are one of those founders of our country, building upon others what we take into the future of our country. And so I'm just so happy, so honored, so proud to be with you today and looking at your legacy and your life's work and just going through some things with you. So welcome, and it's so nice to be with you today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, it seems like you are really busy. I don't want to ask your age. I want to, never ask ages, but I think at your age, I hope to, be on a golf course someplace or reading the newspaper. You're as busy as ever in your entire life and throughout your entire career. What's keeping you busy with the foundation?
Well, we have a lot of work to do. As you know, I think our country is in a very critical moment at this time, and many of the grievances of the past, I think we are now in the position where we can correct them and make our society in the United States and in the world a more just place for everyone.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you've been beaten, arrested, and hospitalized. A grower once called you an insult to the farm workers, which is ridiculous and laughable. You've seen hatred and discrimination firsthand. You also started in activism when it was rare for a woman to be treated equally, and some men refused to negotiate with you. But Hillary Clinton said you are not afraid to speak truth to power. What gave you the courage and bravery to take an activist role in your 20s, so early in your life, and continue through some of the hard times, such as a 5-year strike, which people don't understand? That's a really long time.
Well, the work has to be done, and I felt that we had the formula to make it happen. We learned, Cesar Chavez and myself were taught how to organize by a great human being named Fred Ross Sr., and using that very simple formula of bringing people together, getting them to understand that they have the power to change their lives, that they can't wait for somebody to come and do it for them. And using that formula of organizing that Mr. Ross taught us, we knew that we had the skills, we had the tactics, we had the methods, and we just had to go out there and get people educated and involved, and we could make it happen. So, and that formula still works today. And when it comes right down to it, I really have been thinking about this a lot, especially with what we're going through in the United States. And I call it teaching democracy, teaching people that not only do they have a right, but they have a responsibility to engage in the voting procedures of our country and making their voices heard, learning how to do the legislative process to make sure that what they want to get done gets enacted into laws and legislation that can be implemented, that can be enforced, and where public officials can be held accountable.
Yeah, participation is key, right? And it all starts with voting. If people don't have the confidence and comfort to go out there and be an activist such as you, the best form of activism is voting, right?
Exactly. And also our whole philosophy of our organizing was based on the issue of nonviolence. And voting is a very, I might say, a major nonviolent action.
Very true. Well, it has been said over and over that you are a tough negotiator with strong bargaining skills. And I'm sure of it. I can tell. What is a lesson you have for the next generation of activists as they look at change, but also that negotiating behind the change? It's not just striking or being on the picket line. It's actually sitting down to the table with others who, might have more authority or leadership or power, if you will, if you want to use that dynamic. What is your advice to the next generation of activists through your own bargaining skills and tough negotiation skills?
Well, I would say keep your eye on the prize. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And sometimes we do have to compromise a little bit to get things done. And the main thing is not to give up. As long as we know what our goal is and what we want to change, just stay on that path and don't let anybody dissuade you or push you out of the way. You just got to stay on that path, keep marching until you reach your goal.
And I'm sure it was really tough. As I said before, you had a lot of barriers put in front of you. And, we're seeing a lot of barriers now. What is your reaction to some of the things today as you see some of the violence happening or some of the barriers that are in front of activists of today? What are your thoughts in general about the world around you?
Well, I, like many, are very, very concerned about what's happening at the state capitals throughout the country, where they're passing all of these laws to suppress the vote, to keep people from voting, people that want to keep themselves in power. And instead of trying to make the world a better place, they're trying to go backwards, you might say, at a moment in time when the general public and many of our young people are demanding social change. So this is very troubling. And the voter suppression laws that are being passed right now in the South and in Texas, for instance, I think this is very, very scary because democracy, it's not a passive game. Democracy, everybody has to engage. And when you're trying to keep people out and not letting them engage, then that is a very scary future for us, because that means that the greedy, the corrupt, and I'm going to use that word, the corrupt and the powerful will hang on to power, and their decisions are not the ones that are good for the general public. Their decisions that they make are just for their own greed. And so I think we have a very big challenge right now in the United States of America, and all of us have got to engage in this struggle right now. We all have to hit the mattresses, so to speak, to make sure that what happens right now, what's happening in the U.S. Senate with the bills that are there. S1, the For the People Act to protect our voting rights. It is so crucial, and we have to make sure that it passes. The Equal Rights Amendment for women, so that women can finally be secured by having the Equal Rights Amendment in our Constitution of the United States, that women have equal rights to men. And of course, we've got the Immigration Reform Act that is also in the Senate right now. And everything hangs on just one or two votes. And that is a very, very scary proposition that we are living right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And also protections of working mothers and mothers in general. We saw a lot through COVID, how much strain and just stress are on those who are caregivers for others. And so I'm right there with you. Speaking of your thoughts around women, you said that women do the majority of the heavy lifting in our social justice campaigns. Could you give us a little more of your perspective on that statement, and what advice do you have for young women today who are the next generation of leaders?
Well, just not to be afraid to speak out, not to be afraid to take your place. Don't have any self-doubts about whether you have the capacity to lead or not. Being a leader is just doing the work. And if you do the work, then people will follow you. And always remember to share the power, share the knowledge, whatever you learn, pass it on to somebody else so that we can, make our movement grow larger and larger. And so I always like to say that power is like love. It's got to be shared to grow. And we can do this. Each one of us can become an activist just by being engaged and by speaking to other people, explaining to them how things are working or why things are working the way that they are. Because people want to know, but a lot of times they are too embarrassed to ask questions. And we know that there's a lot out there that's going on that people don't know, because like here in Kern County in Bakersfield, our local media doesn't really tell you everything that's going on in Washington or in other parts of the country. And many people don't have the money to buy cable television, so they don't get Rachel Maddow, they don't get Lawrence O'Donnell. So they can't really unless they listen to the comedy shows like Colbert
Right, right.
or people like that, they don't really get the what I call the real news, what's really going on in our country. So just be informed and be aware, and as I said, share the knowledge.
Yeah. Looking back on your life and your career, how do you think feminism has changed since you were a young activist?
Well, I myself, I have to confess, I misunderstood what feminists really stood for. I always thought it was that women should be leaders, and this is what feminism is. Well, it's much deeper than that. It goes to the whole issue of reproductive rights, about women having the right to control their own bodies, about women having the right to abortion. And I, as a Catholic, and I know many in our Latino community who are Catholics or evangelicals, we have been so instructed that and taught that abortion is a sin, and we didn't understand that. But now when you see that the issue of abortion, the issue of gay rights is a political football, and that the religious leaders and our conservative politicians, the Republicans, are using this to divide people. And so this is something that we have to understand. So feminism, and I do like to say that when I use the word feminism, that does not only apply to women, because we know that men have feminist values also. There's many men out there that do support women's reproductive rights, that do support women's leadership. So to me, feminism is like a value that people can have, sometimes even if you're not a woman. But it definitely means that women can be completely and totally liberated, because no one should ever be religion or politics or family, that no one should control a woman's body.
Mm. And I think I've seen that in your work as I've read books and watched movies about you and documentaries. What's interesting about your work is that you help people understand that race, gender, labor, and the environment were all connected in social justice. During the 60s, we saw the civil rights movement, in which you fought for labor rights, the peace movement, where you live by principles of nonviolence, the feminist movement, you put women on the front line and in leadership positions, and the environmental movement, you increased awareness around pesticides and farm worker health. Your work was focused on an intersectionality of struggles, even before the term was coined, if you will. How did you think about your role as an activist on so many fronts?
Well, I think I have been blessed. And I guess the only thing that opened up all of these paths for me was just my sincere hope that we can make the world a better place. And in order to do that, we've got to get everybody involved. We just can't think of doing everything for one segment of our society that needs help. We've got to include everyone. Like our foundation, we're a multi-issue organization because we work on education. We're working on the health issues of COVID-19 right now. Today, we have 100 of our campuses that are going door to door, signing people up to get their COVID vaccinations. We have a big youth group. We work in the legislature. We work in the Congress. But this is what we have to do. And of course, all of us have to work to stop global warming. So I know kind of segments our time, but there's a little bit that we can do on each of these issues, again, to make to create a more just society.
Yeah, there's good to be done on many and all fronts. And
exactly,
as President Biden has said, we want to get to that 70% by July of vaccination rates, and you are still on the front lines doing that. So we appreciate it. All the rest of us who want everyone to get vaccinated. You were driven to community organizing in your early 20s, if I have that correctly, partly because of the police brutality of Mexicans and Blacks in Los Angeles, and you felt you could not keep quiet about injustice and discrimination. What are your reactions to the world today in terms of the police brutality in our communities that you're seeing, and are there similarities and differences to your early encounters with this issue?
Well, everything has gotten a lot worse. We know that police today are militarized, that police are the judge, jury, and the executioner. that they decide whether a person is guilty, and they decide whether a person can live or die, and by killing them. And this definitely has to change. Policing has gotten completely out of line, and it's something that has to be fixed right here in the Kern County. In 2015, our police and sheriff's department were depicted as having the most slayings, the most killings of citizens of any other city in the United States of America, per capita slayings. And even today, we have, I think, about 9 or 10 people that have been killed this year by police. And the whole issue of violence, our society is a very, very violent society, and we have to start working on this. We have to start preaching and practicing nonviolence, and definitely we have to change policing the way that it is now being practiced today in our world.
Yeah. As someone from an immigrant family, how do you view the immigrant experience today in America? What more do we need to do as a country to provide the land of opportunity promised to everyone?
Well, I have to say this, that we just have to remind the Europeans that they are the immigrants to the United States, that North and South America are populated with the indigenous populations. And so the people that come here that are at our border are the indigenous people of the continents. Okay, so the true immigrants are the Europeans, including my great grandfathers on my mother's side, who were here in the United States and for many generations. So we just have to constantly remind people that this is the way our country was founded, and I should say our government was founded, not our country, because when the Europeans, the first immigrants to the United States came from Europe, this was a brown country. And I always like to tell people, kind of Google a map of the United States before 1848, and what you will see that 1/3 of the United States was Mexico. Okay?
Yeah, it looked a lot different.
It is.
The land was in our families. Do you think the American dream still exists? Was there ever an American dream? And is it weaker or stronger now for you?
Yeah, there is an American dream, and it's called democracy. But again, it's not going to work unless all of us work to make it happen. And we can't have this inequality where we have like 1% and 10% of the wealthy families and corporations have 90% of our country's wealth. And that you can have our natural resources like oil that could be privatized and water can be privatized. This is wrong. But the only way that we can change all of this is by electing progressive people to our state capitals, our state legislatures, and to our Congress. So again, it comes back to that very basic practices and methods that we were talking about initially, is that we've got to engage, we've got to vote, we've got to be informed, and we've got to elect good people to govern us.
Yeah. Well, I have one more closing question, if you will. One of my favorite sayings is what is past is prologue, from Shakespeare. You are an icon of civil rights. And you fought hard for justice for your entire life. What do you want your chapter in history to mean for the future of our country?
Well, my youngest son, Ricardo, he says, "Mom, you're not an icon, you're an ICAN." And
I love that.
And so what I want to be known as an organizer, and to reach as many people as I can, to get them engaged, to get them involved, and to spread this dream of democracy, to make it happen, so that everybody can live in a just world.
Yeah. Is there anything we can do to help in terms of the foundation, in terms of your work right now?
Well, yes, we're having a big celebration on August 21st. Please go to our website, DoloresHuerta.org, and help us. And if you're in California, we're also working on a bill to give healthcare to all of our undocumented people. It's called Healthcare for All. Go to our website, DoloresHuerta.org, and you can get the information there. And join us. We're going to celebrate my 91st birthday on August 21st.
Wow. Congratulations. Happy birthday from all of us at the Social Innovation Summit. And I will go to that website directly after this.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We really appreciate having you here. This is an honor. This is the highlight of my life and career so far, and it's just so nice to speak with you, and congratulations, but really thank you for everything you've done for our country and our people and our families and our communities in your lifetime. Really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Si se puede, we can make it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you.